Welcome back. It's been widely reported in Israeli media over the past few weeks that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, based in The Hague, is soon going to issue arrest warrants for alleged war crimes for a number of top Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. Although Israel, like the United States, is not a signatory to the ICC, such warrants would mean that those indicted would be at risk of being arrested were they to enter any of the 124 countries that are. Although the investigation that led to this point began in 2021, covering a period beginning in 2014, ICC prosecutor Karim Assad Ahmad Khan has said that the investigation will also look at the events since October 7th. As part of their rigorous investigation, the ICC interviewed staffers at the Al-Shifa and Nasser hospitals in Gaza. You might remember them. As we've documented on this show, those hospitals were built as central command centers of Hamas. I'm sure they'll get a fair and unbiased report from these hospital workers. Prime Minister Netanyahu, for his part, has slammed the ICC investigation for the sham that it is, making it clear that no decision by the ICC will deter Israel from its goal of defeating Hamas. In Netanyahu's words, quote, "I want to make one thing clear. No decision, neither in The Hague nor anywhere else, will harm our determination to achieve all the goals of the war. The release of all our hostages, a complete victory over Hamas, and a promise that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel," end quote. So where's the U.S. in all this? While White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre has stated that the U.S. does not support the ICC investigation, leading Israeli journalist Amit Segal recently reported that ICC officials in The Hague have privately said that they were in contact with the Biden administration and would never have proceeded without a green light from them, considering the sensitivity of the current situation and negotiations between Israel and Hamas. If Segal's reporting is correct, and he is one of the most respected journalists in Israel, we are witnessing yet another example of the Biden administration messaging support for Israel while undermining the Jewish state behind the scenes. To help us understand the implications of what we are seeing, joining us now is Eugene Kontorovich, professor of law at Scalia Law School at George Mason University and executive director of the Center for the Middle East and International Law at the school. He is also a leading scholar at the Kohelet Policy Forum. Eugene Kontorovich, Professor Kontorovich, welcome to Eyes on Israel.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, this ICC, this International Criminal Court, it sounds pretty scary. You know, here's a court and they're going to issue warrants, or maybe they will, maybe they won't. What exactly is the ICC and what is the fear of this? What is it? What are the implications for Israel?
The ICC is not that international, and it's not much of a criminal court. It's an international organization like the UN, except very occasionally, it has trials and puts people in jail. But crucially, it does very little of that because the International Criminal Court only has jurisdiction over countries that agree to be part of its system. And the United States has not agreed. Israel has not agreed. Indeed, most countries in the world that are likely to find themselves at war have not agreed. Most of the people in the world live in countries that have not accepted the ICC. Nonetheless, the ICC is still, despite Israel not being a member, like America, going after Israeli officials. It has invented jurisdiction for itself by saying that Palestine, which is not even a state, has agreed to join the treaty. So basically, Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, is getting a Hague-based international bureaucracy to go after his enemies, the Israelis. When you have terror groups like the PLO, and just this week, Lebanon, which is run by Hezbollah, joining the ICC, you can tell that the ICC is not about justice, but is rather a weapon for autocratic states to use in their conflicts against Western democracies. And just to tell you, the ICC has only convicted 6 people of serious crimes in its 23-year history. It's basically like the UN with courtrooms and prison cells, so we should not be surprised that, like the UN, it finds itself taking unprecedented steps against the world's only Jewish state.
So if the ICC is really, the way you're talking about it, it's really just an international organization. It's not really a court with jurisdiction over Israel. So what is the real fear? Why are we fighting this so hard? What are the possible dangers, either geopolitically or real dangers to the people who are under investigation?
There's two dangers. The principal danger is diplomatic, right? It feeds a narrative, right? Most people don't know that the ICC is let's say, a not serious organization, that the ICC is not some august court known for fairly, administering justice around the world. The newspaper headlines are going to say, Israeli prime minister hit with war crimes charges. And it's about that delegitimization. And like any blood libel, right, which are the historic demonizing claims against Jews, the point of the blood libel, saying that Jews kill babies, is not necessarily convicting anyone, but signaling to the world that it's open season for the Jews. And this is that kind of diplomatic signal. Also, it means that if the relevant Israeli leaders travel to any of the countries, mostly, let's say, European countries, that have joined the court, they could be arrested. So I would say it's not a catastrophic setback for Israel, but it is a clear attempt to tilt the scales against Israel and in favor of Hamas. The Hamas leaders are not afraid of being arrested by the ICC because no one has ever been, no dictator or authoritarian leader that has been in power has ever been arrested by the ICC. So it also, would make Israeli officials worried, right? So, Israeli officers, like American servicemen, they're in it to serve their country. They're not like taking home big paychecks. And they might think, what's the point of doing this if I can't travel to Europe afterwards? And that kind of chilling effect could impair Israel's security. And of course, America is in the same position. America also has not joined the ICC because it considers it to be a biased tribunal. If the ICC can go after Israelis, right, even though Israel has not joined the court, it's quite clear that they will be able to go after American soldiers abroad. And indeed, they have an investigation of Afghanistan that includes crimes that could be committed by, allegedly committed by American servicemen. As always, right, Israel is the canary in the coal mine, right? What they say is, the little Satan, as the Iranian Axis of Resistance calls it, is there to set precedents that could be used against America.
This is another example of they're coming for America, but Israel is in the way. So when we think about the jurisdictional issue, you mentioned before that the Palestinian Authority, the PLO under Mahmoud Abbas, which is purportedly, according to the Biden administration, the potential leaders of a Palestinian state and our peace partners, they're the ones who are behind this. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, Hamas has welcomed ICC jurisdiction. When you see Hamas and the PLO celebrating the judicial process of some body, I think that's a very good sign that they have no expectation that that is going to be a fair or serious judicial process.
Yeah, it's also further confirmation that the Palestinian Authority under Mahmoud Abbas is no partner for peace. They obviously seek Israel's demonization and destruction.
They're working hand in hand with Hamas on the ICC matter.
Professor Kontorovich, I understand that you just published a piece in the Wall Street Journal on this topic. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about that and also where they could follow your work or follow you on social media if you have that?
Sure. So in my Wall Street Journal article, I explained why the ICC is doing this. The ICC, like many international institutions, like the UN itself, was created with a beautiful, broad idea. We're going to, instead of, countries fighting each other, instead of people being able to commit war crimes and get away with it, we're going to have these people in The Hague who will deal with it in a cosmopolitan, technocratic, dispassionate way. But of course, you can't have law without power. And the ICC has no police, they have no enforcement mechanism. So they have been unable to do anything to prevent war crimes. They've indicted some bad people. They've indicted Bashir, the genocidal dictator of Sudan, Gaddafi, Putin, and all of those have basically laughed at their warrants, and they have accomplished nothing. They spend $183 million a year. So now even sort of people who like the idea of the ICC have said, what have you got to show for it? So having failed to achieve international justice, they are now falling back on the the most reliable trick of a failed institution or a failed government, which is appealing to the lowest common denominator, the hatred of Jews. And they know that for many countries, if the ICC only does one thing, and that one thing is prosecute Israel for its self-defense, it will have vindicated its $200 million a year budget forever. So that's kind of the point of the article. I teach at George Mason University, Scalia Law School in Arlington, a wonderful place that has been free of much of the madness plaguing American academia. And I work at an Israeli think tank, the Kohelet Policy Forum, which is Israel's perhaps most important think tank on the right. And you can follow me on Twitter, which is where I mostly discuss these things, at EV Kantarovich.
Thank you very much for joining Eyes on Israel. Professor Kantarovich, would love to have you back. Thank you for your clarity on the subject.
Take care.
We'll be right back with more Eyes on Israel right after this.